We will call to order the Wyoming City Council budget work session for May 18th, 2021. Let the record reflect, we do have a quorum. Member Schilling, Member Luger, Member Onstad, Member Yeager, and Mayor Iverson are present. We'll do the Pledge of Allegiance and then I'll read our script. The Pledge of Allegiance will be done by Member Schilling and a veteran. Please mute.
All right. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, thank you. I appreciate that. Good evening. We appreciate our staff, council, and residents adapting to our teleconference format due to the COVID-19 pandemic. Tonight's meeting will be held under Minnesota State Statute 13D.021 that permits a public body to hold a meeting via telephone or other electronic means due to the COVID-19 pandemic. For members of the public, the meeting is being live streamed.
We're recording. We're not live streaming, we're recording.
Okay, so for members of the public, the meeting is being recorded and you will be able to find it on the Wyoming YouTube page. And it is also a part of the public record. After each agenda item is read and the staff gives a report on the agenda item, if needed, I will call upon each council member individually if they have questions on that particular item. If you wish to make a motion or a second, please state your first name. All votes on all items will be completed by a roll call to meet the standards for State Statute 13D.021. Thank you. And with that, we're going to go ahead and start with new business. And it's number one, it's the only thing on the agenda. Preliminary factors influence the 2020 budget and council priorities. And I believe, Mr. Linwood, you're going to start with that.
I am. Thank you, Mayor Iverson. I'm going to share my screen. Can everyone see the memo that was sent out?
Yes.
And I think just to give a brief overview, kind of to go through our calendar, at that first meeting of the year, as described, the council adopted our meeting schedule for this 2022 budget calendar, this being our kickoff meeting tonight. And then other meetings you can see on that schedule, next being the June 9th one, when we'll have our department heads in attendance as well. And we'll continue the exercise tonight and learn a little bit more about each department's individual budgets for 2022. To go through some other things tonight, something for the council to look at when we go through kind of putting these objectives and priorities together. I've included your ongoing goals and initiatives that were done at that session here earlier in this year. So going through those and I think are good points to have available as we walk through this and start having some discussion on that. I'm going to go back to the mission statement. That'll probably be the last thing that we talk about tonight. And go through that, through the vision statement, mission statement, and potentially a budget mission statement. Just to kind of go over an overview, we continue to go through that strategic planning and long-range planning. We do have a new updated final draft to the council of that long-term plan that will be reviewed tomorrow at our work session once again. At some point in time, once we get, the council will be asked to just accept that document, but tomorrow will just be for discussion. Some highlights that were necessary, I thought, to talk about staff level changes for city departments. We don't have any anticipated staffing level changes in 2022. By all means, if there's priorities that the council sees in programs or levels or services, that's something that we'd want to talk tonight. Valuation. And we're still waiting for, it's early for the county, but we believe once again between about 7 and 8% of that evaluation. That was the preliminary numbers. Things that we always look at, healthcare costs. We luckily didn't have any increase in our healthcare in 2021. We'll be hopeful that we receive a good rate again in 2022. The street capital improvement plan, we're working through that right now with the council, and we'll talk about that more tomorrow night as far as funding processes. Looking at both obviously tax levy dollars and potentially the use of franchise fees. And then largely the Wolg Architects space needs assessment and facility recommendations. We'll go into more depth with that. Tomorrow night, Assistant City Administrator Dumas today sent out an updated packet that had information from Wold about some of those design costs that we can, they'll be able to speak on behalf on tomorrow night for those three options that the council presented. Like I said, all these items that we kind of listed on here in the ongoing goals, it's to create discussion tonight and really have council members to bring up any objectives or anything that they feel are, a level of service or city services or things that we really should be focusing on in this 2022 budget. I'd like the council to kind of start there. And then after that, then we can visit that mission statement, vision statement. That's something that we talked about at our goals session. And I think, like I said, that's an important piece, not only for our city, but as we continue to really identify those values that we have and supporting pieces for not only our just mission and vision statement for the city, but for our budget document. With that, Mayor, I can turn it back to you and just see if the council has any feedback based on any of our ongoing goals or any initiatives that they'd like to see or priorities for this 2022 budget.
Okay, that sounds great. So we'll just go ahead and go around the room. I'm going to start with member Yeager.
There we go. Question I had is that, are we going to get rid of Opus this year?
We do anticipate getting rid of Opus this year. We have been working we've implemented most of our features now with BSNA. The last piece with Opus is a bit trickier because we've done data extractions and we're doing a mirroring of a billing. So right now we're anticipating that as we go through this, that we'll hopefully be ending our relationship with Opus sometime this summer.
Okay. And looking through the audit, when I saw the revenues for building permits, do we still need a second building inspector?
Based on the level of activity for this year, I would certainly say yes. I think last year was a bit of an anomaly just due to the COVID-19 pandemic and some of the available lots within the city. I know that our building department for 2021 has already surpassed the total amount of housing permits in 2020. So they are extremely busy and we anticipate this being a very busy year.
Okay. My concern is with the budget that if we're going to start imposing franchise fees, if we're going to be building buildings, if we're going to, when I look at the long-term plan and see a nearly 50% increase in the levy, we're either going to have to scale back buildings, scale back budgets, or both.
Okay, so member Yeager, I'm just going to kind of go on top of that. So I know you look very carefully at everything and really dive into budgets and you have the same concerns every year. What do you think would be, if you look at that budget, what would be your suggestions for cutting a budget?
Okay, well, I believe I gave them at the Truth and Taxation last September. I gave a list of suggestions for cutting the budget. The first was keeping the contract increases a little more modest. That did not happen. I put out losing Opus is fine. Perhaps losing the second building inspector, and not replacing staff. I mean,
not replacing what staff?
Not replacing staff that resign.
So are you talking police?
I already gave you all this. It's been in the paper, and
well, can you just come on, just work with us. Can you just maybe refresh our memory, please, especially mine? That's all I'm asking.
Like I said, one way of doing it would have been more modest staff increases, salary increases. We didn't do that.
Okay, and what about the resignations? Who is resigning that we shouldn't replace?
Well, if anybody resigns, should we look at, do we need to replace it? Did we need to expand our public works staff. I would always say we didn't, but we expanded anyway.
Okay, is there anything else?
Oh, give me some time to think of more things, but usually these things fall on deaf ears. So you guys know what you want to do with the budget, and there's 4 of you and 1 of me.
Okay, so you're accusing the 4 of us.
I'm not accusing the 4 of you of anything. I am just
Okay,
stating a
thank you.
mathematical fact.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to go next to Member Schilling.
Come on, there we go. Sorry about that. Nope, thank you, Linda, for bringing up Opus. It was on my list. The building inspector requirement, I was kind of looking at as well, and the numbers that I'm seeing, we need it. And one of the things that I've always had a hard time in the couple of years I've been on council, I'm the greenie, but when I look at the services that we provide, I look at our budget, just like all of us do every year. And I look for those things as well, because I'm a taxpayer here as well. And my taxes aren't very nice in my opinion, but there's just certain things that we have to do, unfortunately. Staffing, in my opinion, has always been an understaffed for us when I look at an overall. And it gets hard when we sit down and we're trying to do these things and we're trying to cut, but in my opinion, there's just very little for us to trim. Expanding staff, I mean, I know with the public works, we did have opposition to that, but in my opinion, it was justified for that expansion of that. Unfortunately, one of my things that I'm going to bring up tonight that is not going to be popular as well, but I think it is about 15 years overdue. I'd like to see a council pay increase. And again, I'm not in this for the money, but I mean, we're running 6 to 8 meetings a month on average, and you work that out, it just doesn't sit well with me. So, again, all of these things have been so long overlooked in all the years that I've lived in this community, and everything that we're trying to do now to bring things either current or up to date or, more 2020 in line, we're going to be the bad people for it. And, I get that, but at some point we have to steer the ship the right direction. We got to correct the course here, because we've been sitting stagnant on a lot of things. And I think the councils previous to me and everybody's done great on long-term planning, because we know we've had to do it. So those are kind of my concerns. The one thing I obviously was going to bring up was the council pay. It is something that I asked questions about last year, and I forgot to get it included into the budget previously. So I'm bringing that out there now, and I'm going to throw it out there. So.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that. All right, let's do Member Onstad.
I currently have no questions about this, and I'm glad that Councilmember Schilling said that he was the green person, but actually I think I am. I'm a little bit younger than him on this, and I'm having a hard time finding any place that we could possibly cut. But I'm looking at it going, I want to make sure that I save some money too. But I don't know where we're going to do that, or if we can even do that without significantly cutting services to our members, to the members of our community. And I hope we can find something. It'd be fantastic if all 5 of us can look and find something, along with our city management, to find places where we can save money. And I have to say, I think we're doing a pretty good job so far, but we're going to have to make some tough decisions here in the near future. But barring that, I have no questions at this time.
All right, thank you. I appreciate that. We're going to go next to Member Luker.
I don't currently have any questions. We are just at the infancy of talking about the budget in this overall 6-month-ish process. And as in years past, I anticipate that we will meet again and again. And as we start to go through the process of fine tuning and establishing which projects are investments and which projects are priorities and which are needs. And I feel we definitely have some projects that we are going to need to talk about and consider. But we have a lot of meetings ahead of us. And I think that will be something that year after year we have really looked hard at the numbers and looked at, kind of established what are our wants and what are our needs and what are things that we can justify in terms of how that materializes for an investment in our community and for our residents. So at this point, I don't really have any questions.
All right, thank you. So I would say that having a long-term plan, which when I was city council and not mayor, we didn't have that. So for those of us that have been on the city council and elected official for a while, we didn't have that long planned, those ranges to look at down the road, right, to make those decisions. And I say this every year, I'm so proud of the fact that we have leadership that's that as us is we're looking at down the road. We're looking at what's going to happen 10 and 20 years down the road, right? That we think will happen, and that we have living, breathing documents that help guide us through the decisions that we make. And I don't think any of the 5 of us will look at this and say this is easy, right? Because if it was easy, we'd have a lot more people running for council. And it's a lot of work, and it's hard, and it's not making, we don't do it for the popularity contest. I think we all want to make sure that what we do is purposeful and is what's best for the city in the future. And some of this, getting the roads done, that's just an expectation, is to have nice roads. And the expectation is to have police and making sure that we have a fire department and police department. So I don't know, we've done cuts before, and it's at that point where we're kind of at that meat and potato kind of thing. So I will look forward to what our department heads bring forward. Mr. Linwood, in response to us growing, I have lost track of how many developments we have currently. I am thinking it's 5 developments that we have currently or coming through.
We have currently, I have to do it in my head as well, Mayor Iverson, but currently active, we have the Preserve of Comfort Lake, Hunter Hill is breaking ground, Summer Fields is breaking ground. We have Kennedy Estates that is active, and we have Hines Lake Villas North that is just gotten through a preliminary plat, which we anticipate soon to have a final plat from them. So that will be our 5th development, and we've continued at a staff level to have a few discussions on other areas as well with developers for a potential sketch plan here in the next month or 2. So we do anticipate having some growth, certainly, to continue in that residential component.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but when we do have growth and we have new developments, it adds more roads on. So currently we have 67 miles of roads, correct?
Correct.
But as we keep adding more development, we do increase our roads and the amount of staff it takes to take care of those roads when there's snow and there's, patching and all that kind of stuff to do, correct?
Correct, yep. There's a time component, obviously, for that, and as far as the available staff and those routes for the snow plows, et cetera, you're correct.
Okay, so, and usually with building inspectors, and if we look at other cities, is there any type of, and maybe Member Schilling could answer this as well, is there like a number, like 50 houses equals 1 building official or new housing, or is there some type of formula that goes along with building of houses and remodels?
I know inspection level is one thing, but I'll let Councilmember Schilling answer that too. Certainly.
One of the things that I do, because I have to balance this every year as well, and one of the things that it's a good problem to have, but unfortunately I'm so understaffed this year that we're running 3 times the inspections we would normally annually right now. But I also know, as that department head, I can't increase that staff because it's going to end up having to be let go. So one of the problems we always try to balance is inspections per, permits that are issued. And I haven't really looked at our inspection numbers here in Wyoming. And in fact, if that could be provided to me, Rob, I can answer it based on the formula I use, but without it, I don't want to throw numbers out there without knowing. But we do go through these busy times, and you know, more developments coming in, more inspections. And as these older developments that have been put in here, my home is one of them. I'm 20 years old. I'm starting to replace things, furnaces, water heaters, you know, these things are all making that full circle. So basically it's based on permit numbers issued per year and required inspections that would need to be provided for those said permits is how I do it.
Right. Right. And I know that, I don't want to speak for Mr. Weck, but I believe that he used something similar to that, where I think an average was 1,000 inspections was one employee. And I know before we hired that last inspector, I think he was around 16 or 1,700 inspections.
Okay.
I'd have to look at his building report from last year in regards to that inspection amount. But certainly, like I said, I think last year was more of a blip than anything in regards to the building department, based on especially that where we're at already, and they've already exceeded, like I said, those new homes. And I know permits are very active right now.
Yep.
Okay, perfect. Thank you for that. And then my other question would be, we've spent the last 4 years really trying to get to the 21st century, and before you know it, it'll probably be the 22nd, and who knows if we're going to be all up to date. But I feel like the last 4 years we've spent time and money to make sure that we're current. And I say current, when we get back into City Hall, we have the monitors, we have microphones, we have things for people that are hearing impaired to be able to come to the meetings. We have worked on new computer software to make sure that we take stuff back in-house so that we're in control and not having mistakes made, right? So we've worked on that. And I know I'm forgetting some stuff. So if anybody wants to unmute and tell me what else I'm forgetting, we have worked really hard in those 4 years. And I think we're finally at that point, am I right, that we're transparent, we're on YouTube, we're doing all the things that we should be. I can't imagine there's anything else we need to add to our arsenal of 21st century. I think we're right. No more software, no more upgrades on that, correct?
Software, that wasn't good. You know, I don't anticipate that we'll have to upgrade software for any time soon. It's a significant upgrade from where we were. So
yeah. Okay, and it gives us that when residents call, that'll be a good thing, because when residents call, we're going to be able to take a look at it, and we're going to be the ones to diagnose it, right? And if something goes wrong, that's on us and not somebody else. So,
separate.
And then I think I want to point out too that I think in our council meeting, we were told that we received a $260,000 grant, right? We received for that bridge.
For the East Viking Bridge, Mayor?
Yep.
Yep, we did. That's the bridge bonding. We did receive news that we did receive that funding towards that bridge. You are correct.
Okay, and in the course of the last 4 years, we received $1 million as well for some road funds road projects that we were doing.
Yep.
We received, okay, correct me if I'm wrong, Kelly, is it 135,000 for Swenson Park?
It's about 160.
Well, that's even better. So $160,000 for Swenson Park. And I think the point that I'm getting to is this. Again, I go back to my 2 years as a council member versus mayor. I don't remember in that time, Linda has been on the longest, how many of those grants that we received. And I say that we've done a really good job looking for those grants. We've got a couple more grants out there that we're looking at, right? And that helps save the taxpayers, our residents, money, and that we don't have to increase the budget. So I just wanted to point out a couple of those things that I think we're doing a really good job on. And are there things we can do differently? We're going to need to look when the department heads give us what they're looking at this time. I'm encouraged by what Mr. Linwood had said, kind of the overall umbrella of things. We're not looking to add any more staff members at this time. I think we'll learn in the next meeting. Our audit looks good. So I think we're sitting in a pretty good position. Do we know about roads and how we're going to fix it? No, not yet. We're still talking about that. Do we know about facilities? Nope, we're still talking about that. So we're taking our time and looking at those visions. So with that, I'll kind of get off the soapbox, but I wanted to make sure that we talked about that as well, that we've had a really good year and a really good 4 years. So Mr. Linwood, it looks like that there are no questions, more statements, things that we are going to be looking at as we go through our, is it 6 meetings or 10 meetings or whatever it is?
I believe 6 meetings. Yep.
Perfect. So, and so we'll be able to look at a little bit more than that. So,
Right.
What else do you need, Mr. Linwood?
I think with that being said, I think we can talk a little bit more about the budget, or not the budget, excuse me, the mission statement and the vision statement. This is something that we talked about at the 21 goal setting session. And I think just to go over this with council and to kind of make sure there's an understanding, and that's why I gave the 2 definitions of what is the mission statement. That mission statement is just a short statement of why an organization exists, what's the overall goal, identifying the goal of the operations, what kind of products or services it provides, primary customers or market, and its geographical region of operation. The vision statement obviously goes more into a little bit that the current and future objectives of the organization, but it goes through that kind of those underlying principles and declared set of goals for the city. And I think it's important not only that we try to work on these, but then maybe even, like I said, a budget mission statement. I was not aware of this. Councilmember Yeager had shared with me, if you can all see my screen, that in 2011, that there was actually a mission statement that was created at a retreat for a strategic retreat. That mission statement from 2011, you can see there, is to create a proud community that celebrates our heritage, builds for the future, and enhances the quality of life through innovation, cooperation, responsible leadership, and a philosophy of service through the community. That was the one that was done in 11. We have an updated one, so I guess you could say that is still the current one, but I think it's important tonight that as we look at that and some of the examples that were supplied in the packet for the council, is this truly still, is this a good, is this something the council, not that it's all wrong and there's anything wrong with it, but is this still what the council wants that mission to be, or are there changes to it that are necessary? It has been 10 years. So we've changed as a community, we've changed as a council, we've changed administration. Are the things that we want to look at to change that, improve upon it, etc. With that, going back to this, I did provide some different things, for example, or some of those things that we talked about, and then some of that vision. I can open up to the council. Certainly, like I said, that one that we provided was one. Is this something the council still wanted to continue to work on? I think it's important for the city overall just to kind of identify who we are and where we're going. So any feedback the council has on this, or any recommendations or input on this, would be welcome.
Okay, so again, I'll just call on each council member. So Member Yeager?
I'm not really into the big flowery rhetorical mission statements. I look at it as we have, what the city does is to be responsive to its residents and its people, to provide the services they need at a cost, at a price that they can afford. And that may be too sparse for many people, but for me, I rather have it sparse and to the point, because I always get concerned that too flowery and too much rhetoric, kind of people get turned off and damages your credibility.
All right. Is there anything you would change?
I think I just gave you a mission statement that I wrote
Okay.
back in 2011, and over the years hasn't really changed much in philosophy.
All right, thank you. And we can't see you on Zoom, Linda, sorry.
Well, I know. Do you need to see me with my reading glasses on, feverishly taking notes?
Well, I don't know. I have mine on. All right, Member Onstad.
I agree that I don't like a lot of wording in them. They're kind of a contract to the people of the city. And I think what we have kind of is a good starting point in that if we tweak it a little bit, look to see what's been updated, what has changed in the last 10 years, if anything, and go from there.
Is there anything that you see that you would like changed on what they had in 2011, or any verbiage that you feel should be added? And I know you're on the spot. I'm just, it's a work session.
Not yet. I've been looking at the packet, and I don't have the wording that's in there right now, so I'm not seeing that.
Okay.
But I would like to look at this and kind of wordsmith it a little bit. I think we can come up with something that's updated.
Perfect. All right, thank you. Member Luker.
I think it's worth having, you know, a vision and a mission statement. I think it's at the very least they're guiding principles for how we and things that we adhere to and are thinking about when we're passing policies. I think that it can be pretty short and concise. I don't know that it needs to be, you know, Chaucer. I think we just need to have something roughly the same, you know. I think the statement that we have, the length of the statement on screen now, I think is appropriate. I do think I would like to, the only addition, I guess, one of the additions that I can think of off the top of my head that I would like to add to that would be a value for inclusion. And I think that's one update that we could make. I think, again, just like Member Onstad said, it's good. I think it can take some wordsmithing to kind of update it if it's been 10 years. Times change, and perhaps, you know, a decade is a good milestone for reevaluating the language that we have in it.
All right, thank you. Member Schilling.
I don't know what else I can say. I like the examples in here. I like the one that was on here as well. I mean, yeah, if we wanted to wordsmith it, but I think it's a valuable item to have both, in my opinion, when I read through here. So I also think it, and I think someone else had stated it, so I apologize for not remembering who, but I think it also gives us something to kind of look at to keep us on track as well. So yeah, I guess I'm fine with either one, or both for that matter.
Okay. Mr. Linwood, are we also going to maybe have staff? I think it's important that sometimes we get staff involved too. So is that something that we plan on doing with staff and our employees?
Yeah, I think we certainly can. I think we like some feedback from the council, and I think, you know, Ms. Dumas and I and the rest of our leadership team, we can kind of look at this and say, you know, here are some things that the council provided for feedback. Here's our current mission statement, and here are some other things, just the things we have there labeled, and how do we work that. And I think we can try to put something together and, you know, bring that back to the council at our next meeting and say, hey, here's an attempt at, you know, based on the feedback we got, here's what we're putting forward, or the things you like, things you don't like, and get it to a point where we think we have that good mission statement, and then you know, work on that vision statement too.
Yeah, I'm just gonna say with the, to create a proud community that celebrates our heritage and builds for the future, I guess I really like that statement based on what we'll be doing in Railroad Park, and that's celebrating our heritage, right? With the history walk and the Veterans Memorial. So I think that really, I would like that to just kind of stay, because we are doing that. And build for the future, you know, that's important to me, because at some point in time, all of us are not going to be here. We may be off council, we may move to Arizona, we may be wherever, but I think a council always needs to look to the future and what we can do to make sure that we're taking good care of our city. And so I like the build for the future part as well. That I think we're doing that, right? And we have that strategic plan. The rest of it, you know, we can wordsmith. And a lot of this is trying to define what a good quality of life is, or what innovation is, or, you know, philosophy of service, because we all come from different backgrounds. So what is that going to mean, right, to our residents? What is, because what I want might be different than what Brett wants, or what Claire wants, or whatever. So that wordsmithing, I think, would be, we could do fairly easily. So, but I think that opening, the opening, what I want to say, first 10, 12 words is what we're doing, and that's been guiding us. So I personally would like to see those words in there, but that's up for everybody to decide. And a mission statement, I think, is really important, but it does change every 10 or 11 years, because if we're not taking some of that mission and having it done, you know, what's the point of having a mission statement if you haven't done some of it? You can mark it off the list and add some new stuff. So that's my 2 cents on that.
Okay.
So you got what you need?
No, that's good. I think that's good feedback. Ms. Dumas, did you have anything that you want to add in regards to the mission statement at all?
The mission statement I generally think of in really similar terms to the long-term plan. Like if you were to describe what the long-term plan says in a sentence, that should theoretically be your mission statement. And I think it's looking at what are some of the priorities that the council has been pursuing. I know conversations of transparency, that was just mentioned, and that's come up quite a lot, that the council has been interested in investing in tools and resources that help to make our operations more transparent. That's one that just sticks out to me that I didn't hear repeated, that I have heard from the council quite a lot. But that's all the thoughts that I have.
Yeah, thank you. Is that something the council would want? I think that's a great point, Kelly. Something we've heard a lot in regards to transparency. Is there's some component of that we'd like to have that potentially added in a draft statement, something with transparency? Would that be agreeable to the council?
I think so. We're getting some head shakes here. I'm not seeing any no's. I'm seeing yeses. Yeah. Okay. So yes.
Okay. Great. And I think we'll move on a little bit more. That's a good start on that for you know, that vision. You know, and I kind of gave some examples of that too. And maybe we can go off some of those examples. And by any means, like I said, these might not be, any of these might not be us at all, but I think it just gives the council some good background to look at that as far as some of those examples. But is there anything that stands out to the council in those, or any items within there that would, you know, make for something that we'd want to try to start working on that vision statement? That vision is more on tomorrow and what we want to become. I think that's the one thing to kind of keep in mind on that, as far as that vision statement. You know, where are we trying to go? And I think we're planning for the future, but where do we want to go? And I think that maybe that is helpful at all to the council.
Yeah, I'm just, so Mr. Linwood, I really like it's the spirit of community will be enjoyed by strong and active multi-generation population. I think we've all as a council have really looked at that. How do we embrace new families? How do we embrace the residents, as most of us that have been here a while, and then, you know, as they age, right? So AARP came into play last time. So I personally like that, because as we build, as we have more businesses likely to come in here and work here, and families, we want them to start here and then move into a house and then stay here, right? So I personally like that. I don't know about anybody else. If you want to, let's do this so it's kind of early. Claire, do you see anything else in there that as examples you would want to stay? Then I'm going to go Brett, Dennis, and Linda. So just so you're aware when we're coming up here. So Claire, let's start with you.
I definitely think that we need to embrace the idea of, you know, multi-generational, you know, a mention of the multi-generational population that we have. And because you know, we have different obviously we have different programs that that are there for different age groups, and I think that's part of inclusion too. I think quality services and programs is important because I think that it justifies where we spend our budget money, right? We have to be able to invest not just in our services, but our residents as well, and our infrastructure. And so I think that's an important part too. I think that's all I have for now.
All right. Thank you. You got that, Rob?
Yep, I sure do. Thank you.
All right. Brett, your turn.
I'd like to say that mention something about being welcoming to anybody and everybody, any kind of background, any kind of future, and independent of what they are financially, whether they're well off or maybe they're not. I'd like to make sure that we're welcoming to everyone.
Perfect. Dennis?
I am actually not going to add anything to this point.
Okay, thank you. Linda?
I like it so far. I just prefer things less of a commercial and more grounded, straightforward, probably a bit more simplistic for most people's taste.
Okay, do you see anything as the example you want taken out altogether, or you're just want it just more plain?
Yeah, more plain spoken, more straightforward. The concepts are good, but I'm just not into flowery.
Okay. All right. I think one thing that stands out too for me is that the city of Wyoming is actually becoming a leadership, or is looked at a leadership position within the county. So Rob, I don't know how we can put something like that in there. We definitely, I would like it to be the city of Wyoming, somehow we continue with our leadership role, or that we will always continue to work with other cities within the county. I think that's super important to have, the fact that we work with other cities and we work within the county, and that we have that leadership position, because that's really what helps our residents, is that we're working with others. Does that make sense?
Yep.
I don't know quite the words, but I think you kind of understand where I'm going with on that.
Yeah.
We could use the wording forefront of innovation within our county?
Oh, yeah. Maybe add leadership in that, leadership and innovation within the county. I think we've done a really good job in the past 4 years, is just really working together with all the cities in the county, and the county working with us as well. So, the commissioners, so.
Yeah. I think that's a good start, and we can, like I said, Kelly and I can look at that in our leadership team to kind of look at, because one doesn't really work without the other, as we kind of stated in the document. So we can look at that mission and then try to pull something together for that vision statement based on the feedback that we got from the council tonight on that. So I don't have much else. Kelly, did you have anything you wanted to add?
Did not, thank you.
All right.
Lastly, and I think we'll go through this, and like I said, I think it's just good that we go through this, and we can, I know tonight we have obviously still have a little bit of time, but we're on a little tighter schedule, but to look at too and start thinking about that budget mission statement. I only gave one line here. Maybe I should have gave more examples for that, and something we can come back, but I said delivering efficient and effective services requires thoughtful evaluation and improvement in each line of service to ensure that we are in all cases delivering the best quality service possible for the dollars the citizens of Wyoming trust us to. That's maybe long and a little wordy, but I think that's something that the council wanted to provide any feedback on that tonight. We could give some examples at our next meeting too, if there's anything that the council really values in that. I know as far as our mission, we've talked about responsiveness. We talked about efficiencies. We talked about affordability, transparency. But is there really anything when we think about, what that budget mission statement, what we really want to try to accomplish? If someone came up to you on the street and said, what are things that you're really valuing when you're looking at this, your budget this year? Maybe that's a good statement to ask the council. Are there things that you really think of as a council person as you evaluate and move forward in our budget and make those objectives?
All right, so real quickly, Linda, do you have any comments on that?
I would like to have Rob look in his notes and see what we discussed in 2018.
Okay.
Because that was the last time we discussed a budget mission statement.
Okay. All right, Dennis?
This one here, I think we keep it brief, not so commercially trying to, in my opinion, attract. I like the other two the other way because that's kind of what they stand for, the principle of them. But I'd like to keep this short and sweet on the budget mission statement. So again, as Linda said too, I mean, we could look at what was done in the past as well and just kind of combine the two and, create a little bit better, a little bit less or whatever. So.
All right, thank you, Brett.
Nothing to add.
All right, thank you, Claire.
I don't have anything to add either. I think I would be surprised if whatever was discussed in 2018 is significantly different than this. I think, we always talk about efficient, effective investments and spending responsibly.
Perfect. All right, Rob, I don't know, did that help you at all?
Yeah, I think so. And I'll have to look back. I don't think we've ever accomplished one of these, so I'll have to look back at my notes. I don't know, Councilmember Yeager, if you have any insight on what was discussed in 18, but I know we never came to any conclusions on it, but I'll have to look back at those notes.
In my notes say it was discussed, it never went anywhere.
Okay.
But it was brought up. I thought maybe you had more notes on what was brought up at the time.
Yeah, I'd have to look back in mine too. I don't think I do, but I will double check that. I think before there wasn't always necessary that this is something that we felt had brought a lot of value, and if that's the case now, so be it. But I think it's important, and I think it's good that we're at least having the conversation, and we can bring some drafts to the council. And like I said, I've gotten some feedback now, and in regards to look back at those, in regards to, it looks like there's some consensus. It should be kind of short and sweet and brief, and kind of talk about those things like efficiency and spending, this thoughtfulness on that point with the budget. So we can do some due diligence at a staff level before we bring this back to council.
All right, that sounds
Mayor?
great. Yes.
Mayor, can I add one thing?
Sure.
In light of what I just heard, I think, why don't we just move forward with what's in front of us? If we never adopted anything, I don't really want to have Rob look back at some notes from 3 years ago to see if we can find something. I think we just move forward with this. I think from what I'm hearing from the rest of the council, let's just start with this and go from here instead of backtracking, in my opinion, on something we never really adopted. So that's just my thought.
I love that thought. Anybody else want to go ahead and unmute if you agree or disagree, but I'm for it.
I'm game.
All right, Claire's good.
I am too. I think let's move forward and get this going.
All right, Linda.
Whatever.
Okay. All right. Looks like we got a plan.
No,
All
that's
right.
good. We appreciate the feedback tonight, and we'll look forward to the 9th meeting. We'll go a little more in depth into some of the priority items we have for our different departments this year, and talk through this. We'll work on some things for these mission vision statements and budget statements, and bring some drafts back to council. And I think that's all we really have tonight. Ms. Dumas, do you have anything else tonight?
I do not. Thank you.
All right. Good session, you guys. All right, we will see everybody at 7, and I will adjourn the meeting of our work session at 6:24 p.m.
Okay. Thank you, everyone.
Bye, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.